Yo, is men's college basketball in trouble? Yo, let's get into it. Let's go. All right. Let's get into it. Men's college basketball. Did y'all know that UNC and Duke played this weekend? Like, that's crazy. Like, not that many people are talking about it. At least it hasn't been on my radar. What's been on my radar has been women's college basketball. That South Carolina and LSU game was crazy. Like, everything they got going on is wild. Like, I think women's college basketball has really started to take over the scene when it comes to college and basketball Like, they have all the dominant personalities. They've got the dominant coaches, Angel Reese, Kim Mulkey, Dawn Staley, Gino, Juju, my girl Juju. Like, you know, they are balling. Caitlin Clark, can't forget about Caitlin Clark. Like, they're really doing their thing. Meanwhile, the men's game, I can't even think of one name. Like, there's not one player except for maybe Bronny, and Bronny's really not that good. He's the son of, you know. So it's like, you know, what happened to men's college basketball? I think I know what happened to men's college basketball. The NIL is taking over. In the men's game, there's only one college men's basketball player in the top 10 when it comes to moneymakers in the NIL. And that's Bronny James, who's not even that good. He's making $5 million in NIL money, being sponsored by a lot of different sponsors. He's the only men's player in the top 10. If you look at the women's game, they're all making money. Angel Reese, Haley Cavender, Caitlin Clark, Paige Buckers, all making money. Angel Reese is leading the way with $1.7 million in NIL money. When you compare that to the Pro League, the average salary is $147K. The highest player in the WNBA is making $247,000 a year. And Angel is making $1.7 a year in NIL money alone. Why would she go pro? Like, it makes sense to stay 4 years. Whereas you look at the men's game, that, like I said, Bronny's the only player making money at $5 million, but the average NBA salary for a minimum is $1 million. That means if Bronny goes to the league, he's going to be making some money. He's going to be making more than $5 million for sure. So it makes more sense for him to leave college and be one and done, rather than stay multiple years like they are in women's game. And when you stay multiple years in college, you get better as the years go along. The fans get used to seeing you playing, and next thing you know, you're a top player. So, like, look at a player like Haley Cavender. Like, she's not even that good, really. Like, she's not even really nice with it. She just came back after deciding she wanted to leave with her twin sister to actually go back to school and play. And nobody really cares, but she's still making money. She's making $868,000 a year in NIL money. $868,000 a year in NIL money, and she's not even nice like that. Paige Buckers making $652,000 a year. She's got endorsements for Gatorade, Dunkin', Bose speakers. Like, what's happening here? But they're making money. And then, you know, when you compare that to the WNBA, why would you leave? Caitlin Clark is making $818,000 a year in NIL money. She's in her senior season, so of course she had to declare, but I bet she wants to stay. Like, you know, the women are making money, whereas the men just aren't doing that much in the NCAA basketball. And football, you definitely see a lot of players in the top 10, led by Deion Sanders. You know what I'm talking about. I can't say his first name. I'm not even gonna try. But look, you know, men's basketball is taking hits. Like, the tournament is not really like on that many people's radar this year as far as excitement for it. Like, the diehards are definitely there for it, but I don't see me talking about it because I've never really been into it in the first place. But the women's game, I'm definitely got my popcorn out for that one, because that's going to be a good tournament this year when you got all these teams out there. So, you know, it's crazy what's going on. Like, you know, I think men's basketball is taking a hit and women's basketball is definitely coming up. And on the pro side, like, the men's basketball still dominates, but WNBA is still coming up. I mean, as a college player, Caitlin Clark is making $800,000 a year, whereas when she goes pro, she's gonna be making on a rookie contract $70,000 a year. She runs Rookie of the Year, she gets an extra $5,000. Like, you know, she's really not gonna be making that much money. Now, she's still gonna have some endorsements, being the #1 player. She's gonna reinvigorate the fan base with the Indiana Fever, so that's gonna help her out as well. But I just don't think, you know, she's not going to take a pay cut doing this. So, you know, but she has to. She's a senior. So, you know, what else can she do? But there's other players who don't have the notoriety that Caitlin Clark does, that, you know, just don't really see the point in going pro. I mean, Angel Reese is probably the next player who's going to think about it, along with Paige Buckers and Cameron Brink. Cameron Brink's another one who just declared for pro. Like, she's definitely going to lose some money. like definitely, because she's not a top 5 in NIL endorsed player. Like she's not even in the top 5. So it's like, you know, it kind of, you want to go pro to hopefully, you know, expand your individual, you know, persona, but at the same time, you know, you're going to take a cut leaving college because that's where all the money is. So let's stay tuned to see how it goes. Right now, men's college basketball is losing. Yo, so Donovan Mitchell is missing his 18th game of the season. He's been out for a while now. What he's now done, he's basically taken himself out of consideration for MVP, which he wasn't going to win anyway, but also all NBA considerations, which is definitely going to hurt his money down the line. A lot of players have contracts that have incentives based on if they make all NBA teams, and he's not going to make it. So, you know, this is a problem for the NBA right now, because there's a list of players who are on that list of players who just aren't going to qualify for MVP and all NBA incentives. That's Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Julius Randle, Kristaps Porzingis, Bradley Beal, Jamal Murray. Like the list goes on and on. Trae Young is on the potential of joining that list. He just needs 5 more games or 4 more games to miss before he joins the list. And Devin Booker needs 4 more games and he joins that list. Like it's crazy. And I don't know if there needs to be a change or if this is the right thing to do. I kind of lean on this being towards the right thing to do, unfortunately, because, you know, you got to show up to the job in order to, you know, cash in on the incentive-based performance perks that are in your contract. Like, if you're not showing up to work every day, then you're not making any money, like, period. You can't, you know, take days off, even though they're not taking days off due to injury, but, you know, it kind of is what it is. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but I think it's a good rule that Adam Silver put forth. And I think that it's something that needs to, you know, stand pat going forward. And I think that'll encourage players to take better care of their bodies and make sure they, you know, they're in shape when the season starts. You know, back in the 90s, players got hurt, but I don't think they got hurt as much as they did nowadays. And that's because I think they were, you know, had a better idea of what to do during the off season to make sure they focus on keeping their body and their health in check. Nowadays, you have players who are just on social media, taking pictures, going on vacations, and not really working out like they should be. So, and I think it's affecting all the sports. Like if you look at baseball, pitchers don't pitch in 7-8 innings. They pitch 5-6 innings. Why? Because they're not jogging, they're not working out, and they're not doing the things it takes to, you know, to help their bodies be able to, you know, withstand the brunt of their sport. So again, I think, you know, this rule and this game limit is something that needs to keep on going forward, and I like it. And speaking of Karl Anthony Towns, unfortunately, he tore his meniscus last Thursday in the game. He's going to be reevaluated later this week, but it looks like he's going to be out into the postseason, which is unfortunate for the Wolves because they're one of 3 teams fighting for the number 1 spot in the Western Conference. Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 20 points a game, shooting 40% from 3, 50% from the field. He was definitely a great offensive player for them, and he was also playing solid defense. Him and Rudy Gobert were definitely doing their thing in the middle. The Wolves haven't won a playoff series since 2003, 2004. So the fact that they're even fighting for the number 1 spot is, you know, means they're having a pretty great season. And them losing Karl Anthony Towns is not helping their chances. Going up against the Nuggets, the Wolves, the Clippers, even the Pelicans are starting to get into the mix a little bit. It's looking like it's going to be tough for the Wolves to retain that number 1 spot. Speaking of the Wolves, Rudy Gobert was fined $100,000 this past week for obscene gestures to referees. Now, keep in mind, Draymond Green only got fined $25,000 for choking out Rudy Gobert in the game. But hey, make it make sense to me because, you know, it's crazy. Executive Joe Dumars said it was basically based on his past, you know, skirmishes and remarks he's made about refs is why they fined him so much, which I think is BS. Like, you know, Rudy Gobert had a point in what he was saying. Like, he basically got a technical foul for complaining about his 6th foul in the game, and he was basically saying that, you know, he feel like the refs are kind of manipulating the games because of all the sports betting going on, and that's kind of not helping, you know, the way they're calling games. And that may or may not be true. It's probably not true, but at the same time, he should be free to express how frustration in the game when he's being called for a 6th foul. Like, watching the game, it was a little bit of a ticky-tack call, but it was still a call that was made, and it was unfortunate that, you know, it was called on him, and he was, you know, it was a 6th foul. But, you know, to fine him $100,000 for talking to the referees is just crazy. Like, there's plenty of players in the league. Jokic and Luka are the 2 players players that pop in my mind first who talk constantly to the referees, who are always complaining and crying about something. And Rudy Gobert gets fined $100,000 for complaining to a referee and making a gesture. And again, Draymond Green choked him out, only got fined $25,000. Make it make sense.
Chill out.
The New Orleans Pelicans, 13-4 since February 1st. That's the second best record in the Western Conference, second to Denver. Like, they've been balling, number 5 in offense, number 2 in defense. Like, they've risen to the number 5 seed. I had them at the number 6 seed. They've actually beat my expectations. Like, they are balling. They're at 39-25, and they're only 2.5 games back to the number 4 seed. Like, they're coming for the Clippers. If the Clippers, slip up, the Pelicans gonna be right there. Like, I knew a key to that team would be Zion's health, and he's definitely stayed healthy. He's been played in 53 to 64 games this season so far, so that's really good for them. But they're also getting help from Ingram, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III, all shooting at about 50% from the field. Like, they're all playing ball right now. So watch out for the Pelicans. I think they're going to make noise going into the Western Conference. They're going to factor into this race. Like, the rest of the conference is tight. There are teams that are coming up and going down, but there are more teams coming up and going down. So it's exciting to watch. We're going to see what happens.
Yes.
So I've been watching the games this season, obviously, and I've noticed that a lot of teams have a lot of rookies playing major minutes and contributing to their team and factoring into what's going on over the course of the year. That made me, think, where they get drafted? Like, where did some of these players come from? So I had to take a look back at the draft just to see, how everything shook out. Like, if you look at the top 5, Wemby, obviously the cream of the crop, number 1 pick, 20-10, shooting 47% from the field, 30 from 3. Like, he definitely has lived up to expectations as far as I'm concerned. Steals and blocks. He's in a contention to be defensive player of the year. Like, I think he's a really good player. Then you got Brandon Miller in Charlotte. He's playing a really good game too. Like, when LaMelo Ball being hurt most of the season, Scary Terry being traded, like, they got some new acquisitions, but Brandon Miller seems to be a nice scoring option for them. Then you have Scoot. Like, Scoot's kind of been, hit and miss when it comes to playing time as far as, staying healthy. He's been hurt the majority of the year, but he still played 43 games, 27 minutes a game. Like, he's definitely contributing. You can see the potential there. I think he'll get better as time goes forward, the more he plays, but the potential is definitely there. Then if you want to talk about potential, you definitely have to talk about the Thompson twins. They're definitely balling. One's in Houston, the other's in Detroit. They're both shooting about the same percentage, 50%, which is, rare to see. But I think if they add a mid-range game to their game, I think that'll take what they do to the next level. And then outside of the top 5, as far as lottery pick goes, like, you have Anthony Black in Orlando is definitely doing his thing. Bilal Kolabi is actually doing his thing in Washington as well. But I think the cream of the crop when it comes to lottery picks outside of that top 5 is Derek Lively. Derek Lively's been playing ball with Dallas, playing along Luka. Like, all he does is catch lobs and dunks, rolling off that pick and roll with Luka. Like, he's been playing 24 minutes a game, averaging 8 points and 7 boards, like, shooting 74% from the field. Like, that's dangerous for a rookie. Like, he's definitely doing his thing, 24 minutes a game. Like, he's definitely getting playing time. So, that stands out for me. There were some misses as far as lottery picks goes as well. If you look at Jet Howard in Orlando, like, he hasn't really been playing that much at all, like averaging like 3 minutes a game or something like that. He's only played in 13 games this season. So he's really not been doing his thing. Like, I think Orlando's kind of missed when it came to that, because they should have drafted Jordan Hawkins if they were looking for outside shooting. I think that would have been a much better pick for them. He's been playing good ball for the Pelicans, playing 20 minutes a game, averaging 9 points and 2 boards, 1 assist, shooting 37% from 3. Like, I think Jordan Hawkins is a good player that they missed out on, and then there's some players here and there like Grady Dick. A lot of players in Toronto have either been traded or gotten hurt, and now Grady Dick is starting. Like, he's a starter this week, and he's actually playing solid ball for them. So he's another lottery draft pick that's definitely doing his thing. Now, if we talk about non-lottery draft picks, you got to start with Keontae George and Jaime Jaquez, who's from the 805, and his nickname is Juan Wick. I love that nickname. We're going to call him Juan Wick from now on. So Keontae's been balling. Keontae in Utah basically took the starting job from THT. You know, THT started the season as a starter, was getting major player time in preseason and going into the season. But Keontae kind of stepped up, and now he's the starter. You know, they have a good guard combination in Utah with him and Colin Sexton playing ball. So I like what Utah's doing. They're a little bit small, but I still like their guard combination. And then you got Juan Wick. Juan Wick's been balling in Miami. Jimmy Butler's been hurt. Tyler Herro's been hurt. They've had some injuries going back and forth, but he's been the most consistent piece on that team. He's played in 57 games, averaging 30 minutes a game, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 50% from the field. That's crazy. And 30% from the three-point line. Like, Juan Wick's been balling. Like, you got to give it up. And he was drafted 18th. Like, there's a lot of teams that passed him up, namely the Lakers. He's a hometown kid. 805 is in Southern California. He went to UCLA. And the Lakers picked Jalen Hood, who hasn't been playing at all, played in 21 games, averaging 5 minutes a game. Like I said in the prior pass, that was a missed pick they did. But, you know, it is what it is. But then you have other players, too, like Brandon Pominski and Golden State. Like, he's been balling, filling in well for Steph Curry when it's hurt. And he was the reason why Klay Thompson went to the bench. Like, he's been outplaying Klay, so now Klay went to the bench and Brandon's starting. Brandon's played in 54 games, averaging 26 minutes a game, averaging 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 36 from 3. Like, Pods has been balling. And then you got Cam Whitmore, who I think definitely should got picked as a lottery pick. Like, he had all kind of potential coming out of college, out of Villanova. But he's only played in 37 games, so he's kind of been hurt and kind of going through the motions as a rookie over the course of the season. But he's still been contributing to the Houston Rockets. And as the season goes forward, the more and more he gets involved. Like, him and Jalen Green are looking like a foursome duo in Houston. So I like what they have as well. So if you look at other picks in the second round beyond, Keontae and Juan Wick, there are other players that have basically have definitely been contributing too. You got the choice called Mark Sasser, nice little point guard, shooting guard combos. We're getting minutes, 16 minutes a game, 45% from the field, 40% from 3. You got Gigi Jackson, 20 minutes a game, 11 points per game, 40% from the field, 36 from 3. Like, he's definitely been balling as well. But I think the cream of that crop, that lower level crop, has been Trace Jackson Davis, one of the Davis boys, Davis twins sons. Like, he's been balling. When Goon Green got suspended this past season, he basically stepped into a starting spot and have been a valuable contributor for them, averaging 6 and 4, but still 70% from the field. Like, he catches a lot of passes and dunks. Like, he finishes. So he's definitely been a major contributor to that team as well. So, like I said, I like what the draft did. I like players that came out the draft this season. I think a lot of rookies have been contributing. I think there's been a lot of solid players coming out, and I look forward to next year's draft to see what's going on and see what players I get to know now, because I'm definitely watching college basketball. So, I get to know them when they get to go pro. So, All right. You know what time it is? Not talked about enough. It's a segment where we talk about players who are just not talked about enough. They played in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and just don't get the love that they need. So, Tim Hardaway Sr., UTEP minor, drafted in 1989 by the Golden State Warriors, number 14. Him, Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond will form the Run TMC, which basically a trio on Golden State that had a nice little playoff run, made the playoffs a couple of times, beat the Spurs with David Robinson. They lost to the Supersonics one year, and then the other year they lost to the Lakers, led by Magic Johnson, 5 games. But Tim Hardaway put up numbers. He was eventually traded. He lost 1 year to a knee injury, was out the whole season. But then he was eventually traded to the Miami Heat. And Miami, he definitely had a solid run, made an all-star team a few times, made the playoffs a lot. Him and the Knicks went at it. Heat and the Knicks, that rivalry was basically, he was definitely a major part of that. Him and Alonzo Mourning. They beat the Knicks a few times. They lost to the Knicks a few times, but they all lost to the Bulls. None of those teams can beat the Bulls. But Tim Hardaway was definitely a factor in every matchup. He was definitely a problem in every matchup at the point guard position. But what he's most known for is his crossover dribble. He nicknamed it the UTEP two-step because it's something he developed in college. But basically, it was a crossover where he'd take your momentum one way and then cross over to the next. And it was a deadly move. Like a lot of players, took that crossover and used it on their own. And you get layups and throw passes like crazy with that move because it got you open almost every time you used it correctly. Allen Iverson later came into the league and brought in his own crossover. But Tim likes to think his crossover is better just because Allen's was a little bit of a carry. Like when, Allen would cross over, it looked like a carryover a little bit because he's kind of cuffing the ball. Whereas Tim Hardaway would stay low. He would keep everything low and quick, and he would just kind of take your momentum one way and then cross it over to the next. So it was I'm a fan of both crossovers. I developed both of them, kind of out of both of my game, but I think I used Tim Hardaway's the most because it was the first one I learned, and honestly, it was a little bit easier. Like Allen Iverson's, it was a little bit of a difficult song and dance for me to learn. So, Tim Hardaway was definitely a great player. His son plays in the league now, Tim Hardaway Jr. I believe he was drafted by the Knicks. Now he plays for the Dallas Mavericks, a team that also Tim Hardaway played for after the Miami Heat. And he's playing with Luka, so he hits a lot of threes. So he's definitely, doing his thing out there. But big up Tim Hardaway, a great player, a definite factor in the NBA landscape with his crossover dribble. He was elected into the NBA Hall of Fame in 2022, so congratulations to him. And just big up Tim Hardaway. I was really a big fan of his.
Thanks to the man above, man. Without him, none of this be possible.
All right. Let's talk about some baseball. Perennial All-Star Mookie Betts. Mookie is coming into the season this year playing shortstop. They made the change just recently in the spring training game after starting him at second base. Mookie said he doesn't have no problems with that because the goal remains the same. They're looking to win a championship. After spending $1 billion on your roster, you should be looking to win a championship. But Mookie's a baller. He's a beast. Hit 307, 39 home runs, 107 RBIs, finished second in the NL MVP voting. Like Mookie does this thing, he can play basically anywhere. Last season he played 107 games in right field, 70 games at second base, and 16 at shortstop. Like he can definitely do his thing. So I don't see any problem him playing anywhere on the field as long as he's playing. So, big up Mookie. I'm glad he's not in Boston anymore. So, go Mookie. And then your boy Noel Marte was suspended 80 games for testing positives for PEDs. He debuted last year hitting .316 with 35 home runs in 35 games for the Cincinnati Reds. He was expected to be a major part of the organization going forward, and this is a devastating blow for them. They're not going to have him for the first half of the year. PEDs are still a problem in baseball, and there's still players still breaking the rules. Until they, figure out that they can't take performance-enhancing drugs, these types of things are going to happen. So, I can't say I feel sorry for him, but it's definitely unfortunate to see because I feel sorry for the Reds because, now they're missing a player, and now they have to go into the season kind of, handicapped because they had a player who wanted to cheat instead of, doing things right. So, it is what it is. Speaking of injuries, your boy Oswaldo Peraza for the New York Yankees is out. He's going to start the season on the injured list, missing 6 to 8 weeks due to a right shoulder strain. An MRI showed that he's going to miss some time this spring. He's only 23, so it shouldn't be that bad, but this definitely hurts. Going along with Garrett Cole, who had an MRI done because his elbow is a little bulky. He's having a hard time recovering from pitching starts. And then you have Aaron Judge had an MRI this past week too because he's having abdominal pains. Like, it's not looking good for the Yankees to start the season, and the season hasn't even started yet. Like, we still got Juan Soto, who is just on a mission, but it looks like we're going to waste the Juan Soto opportunity. Like, and if we can't re-sign him next season, then having him this season and getting off to the start we're getting off to now is not looking good when you look at the other teams in the East, like the Baltimore Orioles and the Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. Like, the East is full packed of competitive teams, and we have to get off to a healthy and full start. And when you look at Garrett Cole, not looking good. Then you got Carlos Rodon, who's not looking good. Stroman has looked pretty solid for the most part, but we still need help. I don't see them signing Blake Snell, and I don't think Jordan Montgomery is interested in being a Yankee again. So, it's looking a little tough on my Yankees, but we'll see what happens. All right, this is an interesting story. Like this cracked me up. Me and my girl have been going back and forth about it, and it's an interesting story. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But Drea Michelle announced she was pregnant, 39 years old, pregnant, but she didn't announce by who. Kyle Kuzma commented on the actual post congratulating her and Jalen Green on the baby. So I mean, Jalen Green is actually the father. It was rumored maybe a month ago that her and Jalen were dating, and now they got a kid on the way. Like, this is an interesting turn of events. Jalen Green seemed okay about it. The night that she announced it, he went on TV and did this. It took a lot of heat on social media. A lot of people were chiming in, calling Drea a predator, and and all these negative things about her and what she's done. But at the end of the day, Jalen Green is 22 years old, and it's true. Drea has a son that's also 22 years old, so that it kind of looks a little weird. But they're both men that are able to make their own decisions. And Jalen decided that he was going to lay down with Drea and do his thing, and this is a result. So you could call Drea whatever you want, but they're both consenting adults, and they're both in a relationship, and they decided to take that relationship to the next level. So I congratulate them both. I think it's having a child is a great thing, and I don't think projecting any type of negative energy towards them is going to help anybody, especially the child. So I'm happy for both of them. Like, I wish Jalen Green the best, and I wonder where his parents feel now that he's having a child with a chick that's damn near 20 years older than him. But it is what it is. He's a grown man, and he's free to do what he wants to do. So big up them. All right, y'all know what time it is. With your fantasy, with your fantasy, with your fantasy. My favorite segment of the show is because I love fantasy sports. Your boy Karl Anthony Towns, like I talked about earlier, all-star power forward, out for the season with a torn meniscus. I feel like Nas Reed is going to be a good solid pickup to make if he's available in your league. Get you lots of threes for a big man. Basically puts up similar stats to Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe not as many rebounds and blocks and steals, but it'll definitely get you some points and threes. And I think this increased playing time or, only expand on that. Your boy Benedict Mathurin tore his right labrum, so he's out for the season. That hurts. He was having a good year, especially these last couple weeks too. He's been averaging 14 off the bench, averaging 19 off the bench, actually shooting 41% from three. So I think that's gonna be a hard pickup to replace. But I think Obi Toppin and McConnell off that team, their usage should go up a lot. So I think those might be two pickups to look at if they're available in your league, especially Toppin and McConnell. McConnell's been doing his thing too. So I think those are two good players to look at if they're available. Sadiq Bey tore his left ACL. He's out for the season. The Hawks, they've kind of been in trouble all season. Trey Young's out. Jalen Johnson's been in and out. Their center's out too. Big O is out. So, they've had some struggles, and, that team is definitely falling. Like, the Hawks are not soaring. They are definitely falling out the sky. So, I would kind of abandon ship on the Hawks if I were you. Like, I don't think they're going to last too much going forward. I think they're going to lose that last playoff stat to Brooklyn. Like, it just doesn't look too good for them. Steph Curry sprained his right ankle last week, had an MRI, everything looked good. I just read a report that he's just got cleared to return to basketball activities, and so he should be back at practice by Friday, and then hopefully back playing their next game after that. So Steph Curry shouldn't be out too long. In the meanwhile, we'll look at Pods as a pickup. And that's about it from that team. That team is pretty, scarce when it comes to fantasy assets, but I think Brandon Podzinski would be a good pickup to make in the meantime. Alperen Sengun, really bad injury the other night. Like, he fell on his knee. It looked a lot worse than it actually was. They pulled him off in a wheelchair. Like, it looked really bad, but it just come find out he just sprained his ankle and bruised the knee bone. So it's not really that bad, but he's definitely out for the season. He won't be coming back this year. I think Lockdale is a good pickup to make off that roster if you look for somebody to replace his production, but he's definitely not a Sengun. He's not going to replace the production that Sengun was on. He was actually out in a torrid space too. He was actually doing his thing. I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and he was balling. So losing him was a big hit, and you know, I don't think my team's gonna recover. But yeah, that's the fantasy news. Holla. All right, sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week. So for this week, we checked out this month is actually Air Max month, Nike Air Max month. So for the rest of the month, we will be talking about nothing but Nike Air Maxes. I forgot March was Nike Air Max month, or we started off last week talking about Air Maxes instead of the infrareds, but you know, it is what it is. This week, we're going to start with a pair of shoes that aren't quite Nike Air Maxes, but they're actually a collab of Nike Air Maxes. They're actually the Nike Air Force 270s. I got a pair down here. Here we go, the Nike Air Force 270s. What I like about these is the Air Max bubble on the back, the Nike Air on the back. I thought it was real dope, and these shoes, just aesthetically, they're dope to look at. Like when I first saw them, I was like, yo, I need these. These are super, super dope. And what I like most about them was the strap. It was kind of a love-hate. I'll tell you the love first. I like the strap. It's basically the colorway is dope. It actually matches the box. If you take a look at the box is actually orange and striped, which is along with the strap is orange and striped. So I really like that. The shoe is dope. Like I said, it's real futuristic. It reminds me of a shoe they'd wear in the future, like, you know, Back to the Future with his Air Mag joints. I feel like these could fit right in that category along with those shoes. Like these shoes just look really dope to me. What I don't like about them is the strap. Like I said, love, hate. If you tighten this strap too tight, it creates force on your foot, and it'll hurt your foot really bad. And then also the toe box is a little narrow, so you know, the shoes and the rubber bottom is kind of heavy, so they kind of feel like boots when you wear them sometimes. Like the back feels good, but the front just kills the front of your foot. So they're hard shoes to wear every single day, but I definitely get through a week rocking them just because they're, you know, obviously they look dope, and the Air Max bubble on the bottom makes them real comfortable to rock. So I tend to walk on my heels, so it actually makes them feel real good, nice and squishy. So I like these shoes. These shoes are dope. Air Max Air Force 270s, like I call them the 270s, just because, you know, they're a mixture of the 180 and the Air Maxes. So, you know, they're dope shoes. I think if you see a pair, you should cop, try them on, see how you like them, and if you like them, cop them. You know what I mean? Like I think these are dope. So I'll let you walk. All right. Album of the week. So this week is special to me. I've been giving you guys newer albums for the most part, but this is actually an old school album, or what's considered old school now, because this album came out 30 years ago. Actually 30 years, March 8th, last Friday. So that's crazy for me because it just makes me feel old. But anyways, this album's top 5, Gangstar, Hard to Earn. Guru, rest in peace. DJ Premier produced album, featured Group Home, Nicest Move, Big Suge, J. Rue the Damager. Like this album is a classic album. Tons of Guns, Mass Appeal, Now You're Mine, which is actually a song off the White Man Can't Jump soundtrack. This is a song that I would play before I go hoop. Like this was my motivation song, Now You're Mine. Like so dope. But Suckers Need Bodyguards, like everybody knows that. Suckers Need Bodyguards was off this album. But one song that was definitely classic, or actually two, all of them were classic, but two songs, Mass Appeal and Dewick, were two songs I want to talk about. First off, Mass Appeal, one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time. That song sampled the drums from You Got to Chill. And basically, he said Premier sampled those drums to kind of come up with this beat for Mass Appeal. Now, I'm getting all this information because DJ Premier has a YouTube channel called So What's Up, where he basically talks about all the songs that he's done and gives you the origin story as far as how their creation came about and what motivated how they came up with their music. So it's a really dope channel. You guys should all be checking out. But another song he talked about was Dewick. Now, I actually always thought Dewick meant something, D-W-Y-C-K. I thought it was an acronym for something back then, like do what you can, or, you know, something like that. But it's actually not an acronym. It's actually a little joke that they all had going. Bismarck E came up with this. Basically, it was he say something that you couldn't understand, which is pretty, you know, consistent with Bismarck. But he say something like, and you'd be like, what'd you say? What was that? He'd be like, my Dewick. And that was a joke. So, you know, you basically say something that somebody couldn't understand, and they'd ask you what they say, and you repeat, and you'd answer by saying, my Dewick. So Premier took that Dewick and named the song Dewick. That's how the song came about. That's how the name of the song came about. Now, one other note about that song was the first and only song ever performed live on the hit classic TV show In Living Color. They used to require that all musical acts, and y'all remember they had a lot of musical acts that would come on that show and perform. They were the only act that performed live. Premier required that they play live because he wanted to do all his scratches live when he scratched over the song. He didn't want them to be, tape delayed or nothing like that. So they actually performed that song live on In Living Color. We're the only band to do that. So big up Gangstar, rest in peace Guru, big up Premier. Hip hop lives through this song, through this music. Holla at your boy. All right. That's another week, another show. Please like, subscribe, and share this show. I need to get my numbers up, y'all. So help your boy out, please. Like, subscribe, and share to the show. If you're subscribed already, I appreciate you. Thank you. But like it and share it with your friends as well so we can get these numbers up and get the YouTube algorithm to act right. But I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all stay blessed. Have a good week, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.